Okay. Final thoughts on Hellraiser Revelations. Blasphemy for replacing Doug Bradley, but given the fact he refused to do it, it was either don't make this movie or replace him. I think the makers of this movie really have balls for doing that. Considering Doug Bradley turned down the role because he said it was not a very good script and the budget was too low to do anything good with it. Okay, so my final thoughts on this movie are, it can be considered a guilty pleasure. If you're a fan of the franchise, great. If you're not, it's okay. It can get you into the franchise. At the very least, it may get you curious about the franchise. It does take a lot of elements, derive a lot of its elements from Hellraiser 1 and 2. It basically transplants certain parts of those movies and puts it into its own movie and claims it as its own idea, despite the fact that it's not. The only thing new about this movie, I would say, is the addition of Pinhead's disciple, Pseudo Pinhead. I guess that's how you say it. Which was a nice little idea. I mean, it's something original. It's something I'd never seen. I mean, it may or may not have been in the original comic books that the original Hellraiser was based on. I don't know. I just know that it's a nice little idea to have like Pinhead, this person that he's training to take over, I guess, in the event that something happens to him. God forbid. Anyway, the effects in this movie are not too bad. I mean, there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of cheesy moments. There's a lot of the use of the word fuck in this movie. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard the F-bomb used so much in a movie since the fuck song of Limp Bizkit's, which is used like 36 some times in that song. I don't know. It's used quite a bit in this movie. Overall, this movie was not bad. It's not great. The acting is, at times, terrible. You can tell it's forced. And at other times, it's really quite good, although there are times when you just want the actors to shut the fuck up and get back to the actual storyline of the movie. You want something to happen just to take your mind off of these dreadful characters that you just you try to give a fuck about, but you don't. You want them to die. You want them to die. The last thing I have that I really have is the ending to this movie. It's one of those movies that, in a way, it ends in a way that it could set it up for another one, to bring back that particular surviving character that survives at the end of it. But at the same time, I don't like the way it ends, because the father got... I'm going to spoil things here, so I'd stop the video now if you're not wanting to be spoiled. The father dies from the gunshot wound. Steve's, or I should say Nico and Steve's skin, is killed off by Pinhead and Pseudo Pinhead, which is revealed to be Steve. Apparently he opened the box to save his ass. But anyway, he's killed off by, he starts off being killed off by Pinhead and Pseudo Pinhead, but the father kills him with the shotgun, which causes Pinhead and Pseudo Pinhead to be pissed off because they don't get to do it, and instead they take the mother in his place, which causes the daughter and the father to go free, but at the same time they're suffering because it's their fault that they... Yeah, but anyway, it's a stupid ass ending. The only reason why they let her go is because she has a child, which apparently is the bastard child of Nico, who is... I don't know, it has a bunch of complicated subplots in this movie. The story is tossed around so much that it's hard to tell what the fuck is going on at times. It's really confusing. I mean, I'd rather watch the fucking Blair Witch Project. I mean, seriously. But as a fan of the franchise, I will say the guy that got to play Pinhead, he does a decent job at times. I mean, there are times where his acting is slightly forced, but given the script and everything, he doesn't do bad. I mean, the Pinhead makeup doesn't look as good on him as it did on Doug Bradley, but he does look like someone that could be Pinhead. He looks like a Pinhead, not like a bad Pinhead, but I mean, like, you know, like a person that hell would choose to be a Pinhead. which they never mention hell in this movie as actually being hell, unlike the previous Hellraiser movies where they actually mention hell as being the place where the Cenobites are from. This one never actually mentions it. It might hint at it, and if it does, I didn't catch it, but they never mention it. So this whole movie, it mostly focuses on Nico and Steve, and it's mainly about them up until the last few minutes of the movie, anyway. The plot is very slow. It drags on and on. It doesn't even... nothing actually happens until about midway into the movie. That's when it actually starts picking up. I can't think of anything else to say. The acting from some of the actors is good on parts, bad on other parts. The effects are really good. Despite some parts being taken from the previous Hellraiser movies, obviously. The way that Pinhead enters and exits in this movie is not as good as the previous ones. I mean, at least in the previous ones, with the exception of, like, Deader, I think, at least it showed him entering in a grand way. You know, a door would open and he'd walk through it and there he would be, kind of thing. It just, I don't know. It felt, you could tell it's rushed. You can see the budget. You can see the $300,000 budget shine through in this movie. It really does. I don't know what I'll review next. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do next for review. If I do one at all, it depends on how many comments I get on these videos. Hopefully Mario sees this and comments at the very least. I mean, you know, I'd like to do reviews with Mario. Unfortunately, we never get around because I never catch him, but that's beside the point. Anyway, end of review. Final thoughts. I'd give this, if out of a 10 rating, I'd give it a 4.5 out of 10. Worth watching, guilty pleasure movie, but only if you're a fan of the franchise. If you don't like the fact that Doug Bradley isn't in it, I wouldn't recommend watching it if you're a huge Doug Bradley as Pinhead fan. I only watched it just because I wanted to see, you know, I had nothing better to do, so I was like, what the hell. And I couldn't sleep anyway, so... anyway, that be all. Comment below.